You woke up this morning inside a miracle machine. Flush the toilet, hot water, soap, toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, clean towel, maybe a little cologne, so the world doesn't find out what your body actually does for a living. Now, strip it all away. No shower, no soap, no toothpaste, no toilet paper, no washing machine, no perfume, no private bathroom, where you can pretend biology is something that happens to other people. Just your skin, your mouth, your hair, your sweat, and 30 other humans carrying the same problem. So why didn't ancient humans spend 300,000 years rotting alive? Maybe the real question isn't why they were so dirty. Maybe the real question is why we became so fragile. We have been trained to think hygiene comes in bottles. Blue gel, white foam, artificial mint, ocean breeze, fresh linen, corporate poetry printed on plastic. But for almost all of human history, hygiene was not a product category. It was risk management. Ancient humans were not trying to smell like a hotel lobby. They were trying to keep parasites off their skin, waste away from their food, infection out of their wounds, and sickness out of the group. They had sun, wind, river water, plants, ash, mud, sand, distance from waste, constant movement, social grooming, and a body microbiome that wasn't being chemically carpet bombed every morning. Ancient hygiene was not about smelling like flowers. It was about staying alive without destroying the body's own defenses. They weren't filthy. They were operating under a different contract with nature. Start with the mouth, because this is where modern confidence gets punched in the face. You brush twice a day. You floss when guilt wins. You rinse with something that burns like a legal warning. So naturally, you assume your mouth is cleaner than theirs. Not so fast. Ancient humans had no toothpaste, no nylon toothbrush, no mint-flavored chemical foam, telling them they were civilized. But they were chewing through a completely different menu. Roots, tough plant fibers, meat, nuts, cartilage, food that fought back. Every meal was basically a low-budget dental cleaning, scraping the teeth, working the jaw, and keeping soft, sticky residue from camping out between molars. And to be clear, Stone Age teeth were not perfect. Some individuals still had decay, infections, worn enamel, and serious dental pain, but the bigger pattern matters. And when food wasn't enough, they used chewing sticks. Small branches, frayed at the end, rubbed against the teeth like nature's first toothbrush. Then, farming arrived. Grains, starches, softer food, dense carbohydrates. Suddenly, the mouth became less like a forest trail, and more like a corporate break room after Donut Friday. Plaque had more to eat. Cavity-causing bacteria had better conditions. The human mouth changed because the human menu changed. They didn't beat cavities because they had better toothbrushes. They beat them because they hadn't invented the modern diet yet. Now, let's deal with the part everybody is pretending not to think about. The smell. Would they smell terrible to us? Probably. But would they smell terrible to each other? That's a different question. Because sweat is not the villain. Sweat is mostly water and salt. By itself, it barely smells like anything. The odor starts when bacteria on your skin break down combustions in that sweat and leave behind the biological version of office trash. But ancient bodies lived in a different system. They were outside. Moving air hit their skin all day. They weren't sealed inside tight synthetic clothes, like leftovers in plastic wrap. They weren't scrubbing their skin every morning with modern detergents, then wondering why the whole system panicked and produced more oil, more irritation, more stink. Their skin microbiome had a job, and for the most part, nobody was firing the staff every morning. They also used aromatic plants, not because they were trying to smell like a luxury spa, but because plants could repel insects, calm the skin, and cover the worst edges of human odor. And then, there was smoke. Campfire smoke got into the hair, the skin, the hides, the tools, the sleeping area. That smell followed the group like a signature. To us, they may have smelled like smoke, earth, sweat, and forest. To them, that was not filth. That was identity. Hair was where the whole hygiene problem got personal, because hair collects everything. Scalp oil, dust, dirt, ash from the fire, sweat from the hunt, tiny bits of whatever the day threw at you. And then, of course, the real nightmare department. Lice, ticks, and parasites, treating your head like downtown real estate. Ancient humans did not fix that with shampoo. They fixed it with time, tools, and each other. They used combs made from bone or wood. They used their fingers. They picked through hair, strand by strand, removing insects, dirt, and whatever did not belong there. But this was not just cleaning. This was trust. You do not let someone sit that close to your head unless they are inside your circle. In a small group, touch was not casual. It was information. It said, "You are safe with me. I am safe with you." Before humans had small talk, they had grooming. No office coffee chat, no awkward elevator conversation. Just one human sitting behind another, pulling parasites from their hair, keeping them alive, and quietly reinforcing the deal that made survival possible. Hygiene was not private back then. It was social glue. And no, ancient humans were not just walking around proudly refusing to bathe, like hygiene was some future conspiracy. That myth needs to die. Humans followed water because water was survival. Rivers, lakes, streams, springs. If a group found reliable water, they didn't just drink from it. They washed in it. They rinsed sweat off their skin. They cleaned blood from their hands. They got mud, ash, and whatever else the day left behind off their bodies. But they did not have modern soap, so they used what the world gave them. Sand could scrub the skin, like a rough, natural exfoliant. Ash mixed with water could help cut through grease. Clay could pull oil from the skin. Certain plants created a natural lather, not exactly a spa commercial, but enough to move dirt, oil, and smell in the right direction. Was it perfect? No. Was it gentle? Not always. Was it better than doing nothing? Absolutely. Ancient hygiene wasn't luxury. It was improvisation. No polished tiles, no scented foam, no dermatology aisle with 27 products, promising to repair the damage caused by the other 26. Just water, grit, plants, ash, and a practical understanding of one thing modern people keep forgetting. Clean enough is not the same as sterile. Now, we get to the question everybody has been quietly dragging behind the conversation. Where did they go? No toilet, no plumbing, no flush, no toilet paper, no little white room where civilization politely hides the evidence. They went outside. That sounds primitive, until you realize the smartest part was not the act itself. It was the distance. Small nomadic groups had one massive advantage modern cities eventually lost. They could move away from their own waste. They were not stacking thousands of people on top of each other, dumping filth near food, and hoping the local water supply did not turn into a biological crime scene. They could keep waste away from sleeping areas, away from cooking areas, away from the water they depended on. That is not luxury. That is public health. In its earliest uniform, the real nightmare started later, when humans settled down. Permanent villages, crowded streets, animals nearby, waste piling up, water sources getting contaminated. Suddenly, the problem was no longer one person in the woods. It was everyone's waste, becoming everyone's risk. That is the brutal twist. The moment humans became more civilized, they also became easier for disease to find. The sanitation disaster wasn't the cave. It was the city. That is the part history likes to clean up. Civilization gave us walls, markets, temples, and eventually, plumbing. But before plumbing arrived, it also gave disease a permanent address. So here is where the story stops being about ancient hygiene and starts being about US. Let's be clear. Modern hygiene saved lives. Soap, clean water, plumbing, sewage systems, antibiotics, hospital sanitation, these were not cosmetic upgrades. They were civilization pulling death out of the drinking water. Nobody serious wants to go back to infected wounds, contaminated wells, and cities that smelled like a lawsuit from God. But then, something happened. Clean became sterile. Fresh became artificial. Normal human scent became a personal failure. Bacteria became the enemy. Every pore became a problem to manage. Every smell became a crisis to cover. And that is the paradox. The human body did not evolve in a sealed bathroom. It evolved with microbes, on the skin, in the mouth, in the gut, around the body, like a living security team. Some bacteria were dangerous. Some were useful. Some were the quiet workers keeping the whole building from catching fire. But modern hygiene often doesn't negotiate. It carpet bombs. So now, we may be the cleanest humans who have ever lived, and somehow also the most irritated, allergic, sensitive, inflamed, and dependent on products to feel normal. That should bother you, because maybe ancient humans were not failing at hygiene. Maybe we are failing to understand what hygiene was supposed to protect. Your ancestors were not sterile, they were stable, and there is a difference. Tomorrow morning, you will probably do the same routine again. Shower, toothpaste, deodorant, clean towel, toilet flush. Small things, automatic things, the kind of miracles we treat like office furniture because they are always there. But now, they should feel different because none of this was guaranteed. Every clean tile, every drain, every bottle, every smooth white sink is sitting on top of thousands of years of trial, error, disease, death, invention, and human stubbornness. Modern hygiene is not fake. It is one of the greatest victories our species ever pulled off. But it did not rescue us from being animals. It changed the tools. Ancient humans were not dirty animals waiting for civilization to rescue them. They were problem solvers, using sticks, smoke, water, plants, distance, and each other. They survived because they paid attention to the river, to the body, to the smell of rot, to the direction of the wind, to what happened when waste got too close, or skin got too damaged, or parasites got ignored. Maybe hygiene was never about escaping nature. Maybe it was about learning how to live with it. So the next time someone sells you clean in a plastic bottle, remember what the record says. Humans did not survive because they were spotless. They survived because they were observant. They knew when to wash, when to move, when to burn, when to scrape, when to stay away, and when to let the body do what the body was built to do. That is the part modern life keeps trying to edit out. Convenience made us powerful, but it also made us forgetful. And this channel exists for one reason: to pull that memory back out of the dirt. The brutal parts, the strange parts, the intelligent parts, the parts of human history that get polished until they stop telling the truth. If you want more stories about how humans survived before the modern world made everything convenient, subscribe, because history gets a lot more interesting when you stop cleaning it up